My customers love this recipe. It's really funny, the minute you fry or deep fry something, people just go crazy. And this is my coconut king prawns with the chili jam. We're going to start with the chili jam. I've got half a kilo, 500 grams of chilies. Now, I'm not going to bother to chop them because I'm going to whiz it all up once it's all finished, so the whizzer does all the hard work, but I am going to take the little tops off. They can go into the chook bucket. So I start with a pot on the stove and just a couple of tablespoons of veggie oil. Whenever I'm doing a jam, doesn't matter whether it's savoury or sweet, I normally do, as a rule of mine, same quantity of sugar as I do the fruit or the veggie. This one's quite spicy, but as you can see, I'm using the bigger chili, not the little baby one, so the bigger chilies are a little bit milder. It's a good thing to remember, but if you're one of those chili freaks and love your chili jam super hot, you can use the baby bird's eye or mix it up a little bit. Use the biggies and the littlies 50-50. Okay, now we're going to start with the aromatics. I've got 2 cloves of garlic, just going to throw them in. KAFFIR lime. I'm going to give those a little chop though, just to help the mixer with its job. Lemongrass. Give that a little chop. I can smell it already. And then in with the chilies. Okay, so I normally use an Asian shallot, you know, the little purple one, but they're out of season at the moment, so I'm going to use spring onion, about 3 today. Just a rough chop. And then a little stir. And then in with the sugar. So that's 500 grams as well. And that's going to give you a really, really beautiful jammy consistency. So you've got the hot, you've got the sweet, and then you need the salty fish sauce, half a cup. And top it off with some salt, 1 tablespoon. I learned we might be using soy sauce or fish sauce in a recipe. We also use salt because it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole different level of saltness. It's totally different and it all enhances the dish. So a little stir, and that sugar is starting to come down and dissolve, and that's going to be the moisture that allows your chilies then to cook down and get all jammy. And I'm just going to turn that down and let that just cook away nice and slowly. So the chili jam's been ticking along for half an hour. I'll give it a final whiz. Be very careful because that sugar gets on you, it'll really, really burn. I'm just going to turn it down to about halfway, so medium fire, and I'm going to add some lime. So the lime just brings piquancy in the end. It's getting really, really jammy now. It's exactly what we're looking for. I think we'll just let that tick away for a while and we'll get on with the prawns. We're going to coconut the prawns. So we start with some plain flour. So you don't have to measure this out, just so that you've got enough to be able to coat a dozen prawns. But the important bit is the seasoning. Whenever I'm crumbing, I always season the flour with salt and pepper. Give it a little mix. That's going to bring out the flavour of whatever you're crumbing. In this case today it's going to be the prawn. Then we're going to make the egg bath. So 2 eggs, Essington Park eggs, and half a cup of milk. A little whisk. And then we have our coconut. Now I like to use the long shred coconut. The reason being, the oil catches all the bits of coconut and it gets really crunchy and crispy. So long shred if you can get it, not the desiccated one. So I've got these nice medium-sized king prawn, and I like to leave the tail on, take the head off, and just take that track, that vein out of the backbones, open them up a little bit. Crumbing. I always try and keep one hand dry and one hand wet, otherwise you end up kind of with Kentucky Fried Chicken fingers. So dry hand into the seasoned flour, wet hand into the egg mix, and then dry hand into the coconut. 1 coconut king prawn. So now for yumminess. I always check the oil to see if it's ready, and in this case when I'm frying the coconut prawns I use a little bit of coconut to see if it sizzles nicely. I think we're ready to go. So in with the coconut king prawns. Hear the sizzle? Now the secret to frying is never overcrowd your pan, or your wok in this case, because you need the temperature to hold there, and if you overcrowd or you put too much in, at once it drops the temp and then you don't get the crispiness. So, you know, the oil soaks in rather than getting the desired result. But then you don't want the oil to be too hot, because in that case you're not going to cook the inside, you're only going to brown the coconut or your crumb too quickly. But this looks pretty good to me. Okay, now we're going to platter up. Nice and spidery, lovely and spiky, crispy and crunchy. A few lovely wedges of lemon. And there we have it, my crispy coconut king prawns with chili jam, food from the heart.